Today, we're diving into something that affects millions of people across India, hair loss. But we're not just talking about the problem, we're looking at a major scientific effort to solve it. This is all about the India Hair Regrowth Clinical Research Program. Let's jump right in. So, let's be real. Have you ever noticed a little more hair than you'd like on your brush or in the shower drain? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It's a huge concern for so many people in India, both men and women. And it's gotten so common that it's sparking a massive scientific effort to figure out, what's really going on and, more importantly, what can we actually do about it? And it turns out the reasons are, well, they're complicated. It's this whole mix of modern life crashing into our biology. I mean, think about it. We've got increasing stress, hormonal imbalances, maybe not getting all the right nutrients. Then you throw in environmental pollution and, of course, the big one, genetics. It's this whole web of factors, and that's exactly what this research program is trying to pick apart. All right, so here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with the problem of hair loss in India. Then we'll get into the science of regrowth, look at some modern therapies being researched, talk about why an India-specific approach is so important, and wrap up with a look at the future of hair care. Okay, so before we can even talk about solutions, we gotta get back to basics. We need to understand the biology. So let's dive into the science of how our hair works in the first place. It's easy to think that your hair is just always growing, right? But it's not that simple. It actually works in a very specific three-phase cycle. And honestly, getting a handle on this cycle is the key to understanding everything about hair health, from amazing growth to, well, hair loss. So here's how it works. There are three main stages. First, you've got anagen. That's the growth phase, when your hair is actively getting longer. Then there's catagen, which is just a short little transition period. And finally, telogen, the resting phase. This is when the hair just chills for a bit before it naturally falls out. Now, hair loss happens when this cycle gets thrown out of whack. The growth phase gets shorter and the resting phase gets longer. What does that mean? Well, less hair is growing and way more of it is just sitting there waiting to shed. And if we're talking about things that mess up that cycle, there's one major culprit, especially for that classic pattern of baldness. It's a hormone called dihydrotestosterone, or just DHT. Basically, DHT latches onto your hair follicles, and over time, it just shrinks them. They start producing thinner, weaker hair until eventually they just give up and stop producing hair at all. So you can see why going after DHT is a huge deal for any real hair loss research. Okay, so we've got the why down. Now for the big question. How do we fix it? And that's where this research comes in. It's all about looking at modern, non-surgical treatments that actually work with our body's own systems. And they're looking at some seriously cool, cutting-edge stuff here, mostly in what's called regenerative medicine. Sounds fancy, right? All it really means is using your body's own power to heal and regrow. Think therapies like platelet-rich plasma, or PRP, and stimulating your natural growth factors. The whole idea isn't about adding something artificial. It's about waking up those sleeping follicles and just making your scalp a better place for hair to grow again. So let's drill down into one of the big ones, PRP. You might have heard of this. It's getting a ton of buzz, and for a very good reason. Here's the genius of it. PRP takes the powerful growth factors that are already floating around in your own blood. They concentrate them down and then reintroduce them right into the scalp. What does this do? It's like a wake-up call for those dormant follicles, and it just generally improves the health of your scalp. It's literally using your body's own toolkit to fix the problem. But here's the thing. Research is showing that just one treatment by itself might not be enough. The real magic seems to happen when you start combining different strategies. So a huge part of this program is figuring out what the best combos are. For example, what happens when you pair PRP with something like low-level laser therapy, or combine these regenerative treatments with medications that block that pesky DHT hormone we just talked about. The whole goal is to find that perfect, powerful combination that gives the best, most lasting results. And this next part is maybe the single most important piece of this whole puzzle. Because it's not just about finding treatments that work, it's about finding treatments that work for a specific group of people. And this is why it's such a game changer. For decades, almost all the major hair loss research has been based on Western populations, but Indian hair is different. The density, the follicle thickness, even our scalp conditions can be totally unique. So a treatment that works wonders for someone in Europe might not do much for someone in India. This program is finally collecting data that's specifically tailored for the Indian population. And they are digging into everything. How does hair loss actually look different in Indian men versus women? How do our bodies react to these new therapies? Does scalp health change depending on whether you live in a coastal climate or up in the mountains? What are the unique genetic markers? It's this incredibly detailed, tailored approach that could make all the difference. So where does this all lead? Let's look to the future. Because the end goal here isn't just to find a cure. It's actually about shifting the way we think about hair health altogether. What all this research is really pointing to is a huge change in our mindset. I mean, the basic truth is pretty simple. It is way easier to keep the hair you've got than to try and bring back hair that's already gone. And that's why prevention and catching things early are such a big focus for this program. So, what does that preventative care actually look like? Well, it's about taking a more holistic view. It means things like keeping your scalp healthy, making sure you're getting the right nutrition for hair growth, finding ways to manage stress, and, this is a big one, talking to a specialist the moment you notice any changes, not waiting until it feels like a crisis. And really, the program's official vision statement says it all. It's about a long-term commitment, advancing the science, continuously researching and innovating, and always pushing for better, more predictable results in hair restoration. So that leaves us with a final, pretty big question to think about. As the science gets better and better at treating hair loss, maybe the most important lesson it has to teach us is how to stop it from happening in the first place. What if the real future of hair health isn't found in a clinic's office, but in our own daily habits? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.